for being reasonable.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people don't like him, because he's like, being open-minded in a way is, because the dogma nowadays, says this is the box you're in.
Yeah.
If you're open-minded to what's outside of that, you're like going into the danger zone, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's like it's like that rule on internet forums, where unmoderated forums are right wing,
Yeah.
and when they're moderated, they're always left wing.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I'm getting at. There's like a tendency to, like, if you're allowed to notice things,
Yeah.
then you're gonna notice things.
Yeah. You ever notice? What do you think is more offensive to the progressive? The idea of there's competition among sweatshops, or that there are company stores?
What do you mean, like a retail store?
Do you know what a company store is? It's sort of like a lot of they did it to a bunch of like dumb coal miners and stuff like that, where like you'd be put in like a work camp or something like that, and then it's sort of like the store inside of a prison. Like they'll be like, oh, we'll loan you some money and you can buy this food or whatever, and they would like just jack the prices and just get these people like in debt while they were working for them.
Like, you want some Ichiban, you can go take a loan out or put it on your tab at
the company store. It's like the commissary, dude, in a prison.
Never thought about it. What do you think?
Probably competition among sweatshops. Like undercutting one another to make fucking Foxconn chips. But like maybe they're competition because it's like, we know what competition in a regulated market looks like. We sort of know what competition in an unregulated market looks like, but like, dude, that would be a whole new level. Do you think they'd actually have to, treat them better in order to compete? And it wouldn't be a sweatshop, it would just be a work camp?
I don't know.
The answer is they wouldn't, because human capital is like unending. It's unending, dude.
What do you think of what do you think it says about leftoids, that they are very selective with their outrage about certain labor conditions? Like, they don't seem to have a lot to say about the lithium mines, but they are very upset about like a 2% raise at the oil company.
Do you know what they're really upset about?
I don't know.
AI art.
Yeah. Now, do you think you have to be a real sucker to be threatened by AI art?
Maybe so. At the high level, I think it offends them because they know it has no soul. And it forces them to confront the transcendentalness of art and the beauty of art. And it makes them have to go like, oh, this evokes something in me. It makes me feel something.
Do you think it's like looking in the mirror?
Yeah. It's like they got to look, they'd be like, oh.
Like, you're basically a drone making soulless art, so you can, by kind of definition, be replaced by like a computer program that makes art.
Yeah, that looks at all art ever and then just makes a better piece of art. And they're like, oh, but it'll never have depth. And they're like, yeah, it won't.
Neither do you.
No, but like the part where there's beautiful art and they go like, oh, well, like I'd rather like check out how clever it is to like hang a urinal on an art gallery wall. Like, like the postmodernists, like, oh, art is dead, and that kind of the lapsing of the pursuit of beauty in art. AI art forces them to recant. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I'm processing like the thought. I think it's kind of heavy.
It's pretty heavy, dude.
I think it like strikes to the core, because it's been kind of funny. You know, I'm not involved in these scenes at all, but I like watching some of the like in like the comic book world, like these wretched leftoids who are in like the comic pros.
Yeah.
You know, like Marvel and DC kind of comic stuff. Like
Yeah.
I don't read the comics, so I don't really have a vested interest per se, but
No.
I'm interested watching like these really low quality producers,
Yeah.
like writers and artists, in such a panic over, and actually you see it in this kind of Hollywood writers strike too. They're like, don't you dare replace me with a computer.
Yeah.
And
Well-
I'm amused by these people with such terrible output. Like they produce such garbage, and their panic over having the threat of their garbage being produced by something else.
It's the cultural equivalent to goy slop.
I saw this interesting thing. I think it's actually from a few months ago, but it was in Canada. I think it was Quebec.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a survey to parents from like the provincial government about or maybe it was to students or something. Anyway, it was some kind of survey from the government about getting like high school counselors that are like AI counselors.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's bizarre.
Wild.
And it kind of, I thought it was kind of spooky. And this is kind of a different issue because it's not really like, well, I mean, you could say the high school counselor is like a low value role that,
For most people, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
and I mean, I guess you would make the argument like, oh no, this is better because it's like it's unbiased and it's it doesn't have like a
Sure.
human prejudice like
Sure.
to distort its diagnosis or whatever.
Yeah.
But who programmed it, I guess. But
Do you ever notice how? Remember what there was a big push because all the all the autonomous cars were running over black people. Like AI is racist.
yeah, every or the I don't know. There was something else like that. Like
AI
was
will-
it like a computer profiling system or something?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Okay, maybe I
Yeah,
don't
AI
remember
will
it that
never
well,
work
but-
because it doesn't know what it's not allowed to say.
Yeah, and some things you're just not allowed to say.
Yeah, like have you ever noticed? And then you'd be like, have I ever noticed what AI thing? You'd be like, well, you know, those guys.
Well, I mean, a computer can pick up patterns if it's programmed to do so, which is how AI works basically, like for making AI art. It's like looking for patterns so
It-
that like you
you
can
just-
feed it some
We just have
line.
to explain that it's a coincidence.
Of course.
It's just a coincidence. It's not pattern. You should stop noticing coincidences. No, I think it's impossible to have something like I think AI represents our best chance. Like, you know, we talk about Yarvin and stuff like that, and I was like, man, what a fucking pipe dream of this idea of he had this idea of the antiversity, like the anti-university. And he's like, this is crucial. It's critical. We need a source of truth that isn't like controlled by the state. And I was like, all your other theories are like presupposed on this impossible idea. He goes like, we need a source of truth that is under independent control. And I'm like, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, that's always the thing. Did you see remember Conrad Black?
Yeah.
Did you see his thing the other day where he's like, we need a neutral, unbiased public broadcaster? And it's like a fantasy. And it goes back to this whole like flaw in the right wing or classical liberal thinking of like, well, we can just have these neutral institutions and it'll be like fair for everyone.
But because I thought it was so retarded, I'm like, that's dumb. But AI represents our best chance to get there. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I'm kind of I'm a big AI skeptic on, because I think it's like giving up too much to the robot.
My concerns with AI is that it will lead to the end of kind of like Western men. When I say Western men, I mean anyone who's in like a post-industrial society whose birth rate file like kind of goes below that replacement level. Because you already have like, there's so much literature written on like, you know, Pareto distributions within dating pools and stuff like that right now. But the idea that you're going to have a lot of dudes that don't get to have children, and even the ones that were likely to have children at some point won't. And if you take that like overwhelming number of dudes and you give them AI girlfriends, you get some Blade Runner 2049 or 2099 shit going on, and like there's already subscription bases for AI girlfriends right now, right? Like you just get a phone app.
There's one I watch on as kind of like an iconic example. I forget the name, but it's some like, you know, artificially constructed like pretty blonde specimen.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen it. I think it's one of the more prolific examples. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because it seems like it's just the next step from like that kind of parasocial relationship,
Yeah, it's
like
VTuber
what
shit.
the OnlyFans thing kind of thrives on.
No, I'm saying it's going to go deeper. It's going to be people.
Well, yeah, it's like the evolution from that. That's
Yeah. Like remember when that AI took over OnlyFans for a little while, or yeah, it was, or like a 3D bitch, and like it was the number one OnlyFans for like a couple months. Like everybody just wanted to see this like CG like waifu done up. And like I think there's more of a following for VTubers than there are for like 3D flesh tubers.
Well, yeah, I think you get it in the like the otaku kind of like obsession with the 2D like perfect girl.
Yeah.
Or the internet character girl who's like you pay and you kind of like she'll send you a thank you message or something. It's like, wow, I have a relationship. She likes me.
Yeah.
And you're already there. So then it just becomes you know, your Blade Runner girlfriend.
OnlyFans revenue for the year was $56 billion or something stupid like that. Like it was.
That's crazy if that's
crazy.
True.
Yeah, it keeps
even
going
over
up.
like $1 billion is crazy.
No, sorry, I think it was 5.6 or something like that.
But I think it's kind of like a lot of it's weird how there's a lot of aspects of society that kind of like, I mean, we've got kind of at the core like a big problem where like men and women have kind of turned against each other, and they're like political blocks now.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like competing, which is pretty much the death knell of society in itself. But then so you get like kind of these versions of it in like I guess outlets for like kind of the replacement for it, whether it's your anime girlfriend or whether it's your like favorite porno actor or what actor or performer perhaps is the better actress maybe is the wrong word, or the OnlyFans, or your favorite Instagram e-thought. And I think those are all like wedges put between like a normal relationship, and it's an easy way out, for the same way like a video game is like an easy way out from actually doing something useful. Like instead you can get like 100 achievements on like you know, Halo 7 instead of like going and learning how to fix a car or something.
Go lift weights.
It's the same thing on kind of the girl, like fake sense of accomplishment or fake sense of a relationship. And I think it probably is pretty destructive. Like, yeah, end of Western man. It's unfolding. So it's not in itself the cause. It's just like another form of that expression. It's like reaching it's becoming more and more efficient, the means of disrupting those natural kind of bonding processes between men and women.
I think AI girlfriends and boyfriends are going to do to people what due to interpersonal or intersex relationships is going to do to that what pornography did to like the sexual marketplace.
Because it's weird. We're like old geezers, basically, depending on your standard. So we would have grown up in a world where like you would have needed to get like a porno magazine.
Yeah.
And that might not be easy.
Yeah.
Like a dirty magazine.
Yeah.
And it's weird, like the sheer accessibility of like, X-rated material.
Yeah.
And I
free.
don't think we can totally relate because we're kind of like past that stage and we have kind of relationships, right? But imagine, like, it's hard to imagine in that situation, like where you have basically a unlimited prawn gateway in your pocket,
ubiquitous.
and maybe it doesn't even have to be the prawn thing, but like the internet itself is very sexed up, and like a lot of people use Instagram, which I think is garbage.
Yeah.
But you get a lot of like big gajungas and big ass bitches, and pardon the expression. And what does that do to your brain? Does it just like, I don't know. I think it can't possibly be good for the way you think about it.
I don't know. I think it's good. It's good for the soul to look at tits every now and then. But I think it's like if relationships with entities become as ubiquitous as pornography, then we will have a lot of problems.
Because don't they have like, maybe this was a thing that was happening a few years ago, but like when VR was kind of hitting the streets and everyone's like, oh, VR pornography is going to like
revolutionize the thing. Yeah.
Kind of like, get a little too much for people to deal with.
Yeah.
Like it's basically like your robot girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the same package, but in the future we might have like full blown robot girlfriends or hologram girlfriends, like a girl that like is in your house.
Yeah. I think it'll go. I'm taking it one step further than that, because I think that access to ubiquitous or like just nonstop zero cost access pornography has led to extreme fetishization, because the pursuit of novelty is at the core of that, right? Like that's why people don't just have one porno mag that they
like have for 10 years.
Yeah.
Porno mag.
Yeah.
Like it's such a quaint idea.
Yeah. But imagine like that kind of thing. They were like, well, page 36. I've never gotten to page 37. That's all I need. And it's been that way for 20 years. Like, no, that doesn't happen. They pursue like novelty. They pursue, like just like kink. Because at that point, like everything's just blown out. I was having a conversation with somebody about this, and we started talking about the idea of pregnant Sonic, like what that means. Because somebody made this great video, like this, like I'll have to show it to you later, but it was just like singing a song about pregnant Sonic, and I was like, dude, within like 10 years. There's going to be people like, because right now there's people who can only find sexual fulfillment from like the idea of a creature that doesn't exist.
What? Say that again?
There's people right now who only find sexual like gratification in the idea of a creature that doesn't exist. You know, like the My Little Pony guys, the furry guys.
Or
like,
even the anime girlfriend guys.
yes. Same thing. Giant
Yeah.
heads. You know, giant heads, like super long legs, like, you know, they're basically like,
No, it's crazy to think about like how kind of weird it is. Again, we're old geezers by some of the standards of like people who grew up fully with the internet. Like I basically got internet when I was like 14.
no, dude, we are artifacts because it hasn't continued to evolve. Like the true internet, we were immersed in and still maintain positions in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there are kids today who don't know what goatsy is.
They're lucky.
Yeah, they are, but that's real internet.
Yeah, the internet
don't get
was
it, dude.
so different. And
They-
not in like it was hard to get, I don't know.
They don't interface with the internet. They interface with applications.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Well, the internet was much less user friendly.
Yeah.
And it was harder to find things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'd find things unintentionally. 'Cause,
I'm saying like being on 4chan or Usenet or something like that, like where the barrier to entry and like the feedback mechanisms aren't there. So like you only go there if you're like R9K tier. You know what I mean? Like autists only. Normies stay out. Okay, like no one's like, oh, check out how many. We should make a TikTok video, and like that guy is not on fucking Usenet, dude. He is not.
No.
He's not on IRC. Like IRC servers are still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember IRC.
Old internet is there, dude. It's just on the outskirts, and no one fucking goes. And you know what? Good. Keep them
Yeah.
the fuck out.
No, it's like 2-tier internet world.
Yeah.
Like internet for the average person is, like you said, applications that are like made for you.
Yeah.
And the other stuff is a little different, but
I found myself opening up incognito tabs to look up YouTube videos because I don't want to fuck up my algorithm.
yeah.
Isn't that wild?
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you don't want the help.
Yeah, like, well, no, I don't want whatever I'm looking for to show up in my feed.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. Like they think they're helping you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, let's help the customer find what they what we
Curated
think.
list. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really want that much assistance from the corporate overlords.
Yeah. Oh, you want to watch this Mr. Beast video? I'm like, no.
No, the crap that gets recommended on YouTube is absolute trash.
Yeah, open up like, if you want a good experiment, just open up an incognito tab, go to YouTube and look at what's there. And you'll realize what a deviant you are.
So is the how important is it to get offline?
It's not, who cares?
But you don't cut yourself off the online world entirely, but there's a lot of people, and it seems like too much of their life is on the internet.
Yeah.
Like I don't even like the idea of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Or just any kind of like where you're kind of putting yourself onto the internet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't mean like getting off the internet, like, oh, delete your Facebook account necessarily, although maybe you should do that or whatever. It doesn't matter. But
Stop.
like too much. There's too much that people think matters, like about the online world. Whereas we grew up in it, like none of it mattered. It was just kind of jokes and like goofing around and what wacky things can we find. And maybe some people would describe it as like, oh, it's not that different now. But in some way, it's so different that I guess it's hard to define precisely. But
people don't even want to maintain a pseudonym anymore. They don't have they don't have like online names.
yeah, that's interesting too. It's like, I want people to know who I am. I want to be famous on the internet. Like, that was not a thing,
Yeah.
really.
But then again, we just mentioned Mr. Beast, you know, but like,
But I don't think it's like a mystery who that is it?
no, his name is Jimmy something. Or like PewDiePie, who's like Felix something, you know, like people know. But like, again, they were young at the time that it, they were at the tail end of, like, because if you look for my name, if you know my name, you won't be able to like, you won't really, using generic tools, you won't really be able to figure out what's up. I keep multiple accounts. I keep multiple handles. Like, just because that's just how,
Old school internet style.
yeah, it's what made sense to me. Like, this is your name when you play games. You put in the elite like Jeff K tag. That's your clan. Because you belong to something awful. People don't even know what that is anymore, dude. The owner's dead. Rich Kionkin's
I don't know. Like,
dead,
I think
dude.
people need to read more books. Like, and not on a screen. I think they should read some paper books. Turn the internet off for most of the day and read a book. Or go for a walk. Is that like an old fogey thing to say?
No, walking is good. Contemplation's good. Meditation's good.
That's an interesting thing. Contemplation, or just sitting and not being bored, but like kind of sitting and not doing anything.
Just thinking.
I think people not smoking has really hurt that, because there was a time when you like people would just, they'd sit on the couch and they'd smoke a cigarette, and I don't think they'd do anything else. Like, it was just like a moment to sit and think.
Yeah.
And now you can't really do that, because every spare moment has to be, well, I'll whip out my phone and I'll look up like Twitter or something.
Yeah.
But
What do you think about, yeah.
sort of like a detachment from,
No, I would call it reverie.
yeah, I don't know.
The waking dream, dude.
I try to put a conscious effort into like spend less time on the internet all the time, because it's easy to get sucked in and waste time. And think about growing up when you didn't have the internet to fill time. We did a lot of activity. Sometimes it might be dumb, like video games or whatever. But just, I feel like I was able to do more kind of interesting things. And the time wasters were kind of higher quality. And the way it is now, it's like low quality time wasting. Like scrolling through like an app.
Checking the front page of 4chan, buddy.
I love checking the front page.
Poll only, buddy. I don't know.
I just go to the animals section
Yeah.
to look at bunnies and cats.
I just go look
and
I
monkeys.
just go look at guns.
I love guns.
Have you? I think you either maintain that habit or you don't. I have been on an anti-reading kick, where I have, like, you've seen my library, it's big. And I've really slowed down on the books I'm reading. And now I just like crush audiobooks and like lift weights. Like that's my version of like squeezing in, like, because I don't, the meditation associated with like book reading now is not like, it's not enough to get me off, buddy. I need maximum stimuli, which, you know, I need to be able to accomplish something and also like listen to a book. Now, granted, I'm not doing a lot of podcasts, not really, but audiobooks are the way it gets done for me now.
Yeah, I think that's a useful way, I guess, to get some info, but I don't think there's any replacement for, because it's a passive thing, and like watching TV, and there's something very different and active in terms of like the active mind to like read written text instead of having something spoken or read to you. And I've been reading more and more and more like than I have for the last few years. Reading lots of books on paper, not ebooks ever. If I find I'm back to like, if I find a good article that I want to read,
Yeah.
I'm not reading the PDF on the iPad or something. I'm printing out a paper copy. I've got a stack of them right there. In fact, you see those ringed binders?
Yeah.
Those are dissertations that I took to Staples to print because like I didn't want a PDF.
Yeah.
And they weren't cheap to make. They're not like super expensive, but there's something about the feeling of paper, the feeling of like text on paper, turning pages, and reading it.
That's the
Because you
If that's
engage
your-
with it in a very different
you
way.
do. You're making the record. You're making an audiophile fucking argument to me.
I don't know. I listen to CDs.
Yeah, and you're considered like it's nothing like having a record, man.
Records are crap.
Oh, see, same shit. How you consume it, to me, the medium. I'm an anti-medium kind of guy. I'm just like, get the idea into my head. I don't care how you do it.
But it does matter how you do it because, like, studies have shown
Yeah.
that being read to versus reading something is putting it into your head in a different way, like in a different quality.
Yeah.
Like you, even reading on paper versus reading on screen is different. The way you process it and absorb it, having it spoken to you versus like you reading it and kind of like, because reading you're kind of like almost speaking it in your head on your own, but like that in itself is a very different act. Like say you were learning a part for a play. You'd be like reading your lines and like learning your role basically versus like you couldn't really do it just by having someone read the lines you're going to speak to you. And
Maybe.
I don't know. I think we've degraded our brains by shunning the book, shunning the physical aspect of it. And I'm not a total audiobook hater, even though I think I've listened to like 2 audiobooks in my whole life. But
AI comes back into this. There's a YouTube channel. Actually, he's on Twitter too. Skeptical Waves.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Very useful.
I crush Skeptical Wave videos all the time. I sit there. I do guitar scales and just like listen.
And if you don't know what it is, it's just articles being read by a computer voice.
Pretty good
basically.
AI.
But you know, like one of the good voices.
Yeah. Love all his. He does all his Curtis. He does all the Yarvin and all the Bolton.
Well, it's NRX stuff.
Yeah.
You love NRX. Do you prefer newer Yarvin or older Yarvin?
Newer.
Newer? So like, you think he's a little less spicy?
No, I think he's a little more
Practical?
disincentivized.
In what sense?
Being in like the identity of the dangerous idea.
Why do you think Yarvin was so what do you think it is about his ideas that like got him so wrong on the virus issue?
Have you ever noticed?
Because he should have, it's like
Should have called this, yeah.
We shouldn't necessarily single him out, but we will maybe for the sake of argument because he's very interesting and distinctive, and he cuts through a lot of like phony stuff to get to the heart of the issue.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a broad thing. Like, why did so many people get it wrong? But in particular, him.
Yeah.
He had kind of a different way of being wrong about it.
Well, it's like that old Garfield meme. You're not immune to propaganda, buddy. You know? Or the counter to that is autism makes you immune to propaganda.
Not autistic
He's
enough.
not autistic enough, dude. No, I think because he is like, if you listen to or read a general introduction. One of the things that I had trouble dealing with is that the absolute baseline, which is to submit to sovereignty. Don't involve yourself in these things. Do not vote. The only thing you're allowed to do is like petition your fucking MLA or MP or representative, because it in and of itself is an admission of sovereignty. Right? But this whole like, don't hand out leaflets, don't fucking get politically involved. And I think even from the get-go, this was not a public health issue. This was a political issue. It's convenient that, like, some people go like, oh, Donald Trump lost because of COVID. And yeah, maybe. Or maybe he's a fucking liar and he didn't do anything he said he was gonna do. Yeah, for some reason the stain, like the Joe Biden is seen as like the COVID guy. He's like, check out all these fucking, get your vaccines. Check out all these vaccines. Yeah, they're fucking great. And like, he, like, lockdowns continued, stronger, harder, faster, better under him. And that stink has not polluted Trump the same way, but it should.
Well, Trump was Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah.
And like, he was extremely incoherent about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, on the one hand, he's kind of
I
like,
locked
we'll
it down.
crush. Yeah, I locked it down. We locked it down.
No one's ever done it. It's the greatest thing ever. We locked the whole place down. And I think if you're kind of like a contrarian, but also effectively a political pacifist, I think the part where you go along with it, and like we know people that are politically minded, are smart, but they basically were advised by their doctors, and they were like, like, look, dude, like, just do the math. It might be good, it might be bad, like, who knows? But like, here's the data, and like, it's just it's not free of consequence, but here are the consequences for not doing it. And so I think he was like that, but I don't think I think he just missed the mark. I think he just didn't get it. Which is weird. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because I consider him pretty hip.
Yeah.
And I also consider him to be a historian first, right?
So I wonder if, because, he's very much like the monarchist, right? Like,
yeah.
You need to have like, the absolute monarchy, like someone's in charge. He would describe the CEO as like the king of the company or whatever. And it's like, anything that works has a king, basically.
Yeah.
And I think he had this idea that maybe it's like a weakness to the sense of power not being enough sometimes. Like, because he talked about how, if you were the king and you wanted to deal with COVID, like, you just deal with this and this and this. But it's kind of treating it as like a much narrower issue, and kind of like this fantasy that if you have enough power, you can solve this problem, when there's certain things in life that power doesn't give you the solution to it, especially something that's so beyond human control. Like basically gas in the air, essentially, like evil danger gas, poison Chinese gas, death particles in the air. But you really start getting to the limit of what you can do to control things.
Yeah, you're like, well, if a king wanted to like
we just cut off the Western Hemisphere.
Stop the common cold. And we're like, it can't be done, dude. It cannot be done.
So yeah, kind of interesting the way
Yeah, I think maybe he.
it scrambled people's like, and it broke the rules for a lot of people. Like a lot of people just didn't know how to deal with the problem, because like how you deal with a problem like that is you kind of like don't deal with it.
Yeah.
At some point, you just got to like kind of let it go.
Yeah.
And something bad is going to happen. Okay, sure. Somebody might get sick. Somebody's going to die. And you can't stop it.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like how's a king to stop fentanyl overdoses? They're like, make it more illegal.
you gotta yeah, I don't know.
Like now they're like, oh, just give them syringes. Like, terrible answer.
Just be more compassionate.
Yeah.
That would be the leftist answer. We just need more compassion. We need to take care of them more, or we need to help them more. Compassion won't.
We should do the truly Christian thing and be compassionate. We should tolerate this drug use.
No tolerance.
Can't force them, buddy. Got to come to God on your own.
I think we talked about this once.
Yeah.
Where like, yeah, I think it was our last discussion.
Yeah. No,
we don't need to rehash, but
no, but they got to start fucking. They gotta. It's pretty simple. Just pass a short-term statute that you piss test everybody you arrest. If they come back fucking dirty, mandatory rehab. Boom, done, easy. Kidnap them. If you're gonna use the state, use it for good.
Well, okay. What about some Alberta stuff?
Yeah.
So there was an election a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been relatively quiet.
Well,
there's stuff about overhauling the electrical grid. I don't care about any of that right now.
Cares?
What I want to ask you is, say you wanted to crush the NDP.
Yeah.
And make sure they cannot win another election for like 30 years.
Yeah.
What would you want to do?
I'd be like as audacious as possible. And I would continue to frame any opposition. It's not like their opposition even fucking matters. That's the best part. Like, majority, fuck you. I don't care what you think. This is getting passed. But I would frame any.
Well, according to the media, it was basically they won the election because they like had more seats than any ever, or they had more.
Yeah.
They were the biggest losers of all time.
Yeah, check out all these gains.
Check out all these seats they got in the course of losing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you just got to take.
And I love how the Edmonton is cut off from
Oh yeah,
I like
it.
I like how they said, well, we should have like the losers committee or something. They're like, well, we'll put some Edmonton like MLA candidates that lost as like a council that'll hear Edmonton's grievances or something.
Yeah, let's form a sub-government.
Yeah, and NDP says, well, shouldn't the MLAs who were elected in Edmonton be on that committee? And they're like, no.
No. No, you just punish them further.
See, you got to reward your enemies. You got to, reward your buddies.
Yeah.
Punish your enemies.
Yep.
How do you punish? But you also want to, in a Yarvin sense, you want to make it easier to win again in the future.
Yeah.
So what do you do, like in a strategic or tactical sense? What do you do to make it easier to win in the future and like cut the NDP even further from power?
Redistrict, cut off funding, eliminate funding. Destroy departments that are like overwhelmingly part of one ideological side. Fire anybody who's ever run for MLA membership. Do purity tests among your fucking like top tier people. No one's allowed to be appointed if they ever gave a penny to the fucking NDP. I'm saying like straight like Gestapo shit.
So an interesting case that I thought was interesting was the Hinshaw thing.
Oh, dude.
So, she got fired.
Yeah. They tried to sneak her back in.
And then they tried to sneak her back in.
Yeah.
Like, basically, a former NDP candidate who worked in this, like, whatever it was, some Aboriginal Affairs public health office, whatever it is, some bureaucracy that needs its budget cut, obviously. But so they, like, gave her a job and they keep it quiet because they think the NDP is going to win the election.
Yeah.
And then they just try and like, oh yeah, well, this is our new hire at this department.
Yeah,
and
our new consultant.
And then they basically fired her.
And the person that hired her.
Do you think that's a good example?
Dude, perfect. The thing is, how could you respect Smith if she let that stand, dude?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not enough, but I think it's symbolically important. It's kind of like, in a shallow sense, it feels good because, let's be honest, she's not totally to blame for everything, but she was like a figurehead. Yeah. And she was put out there as a figurehead. Like she was...
Dude, she was the sacrifice.
Yeah, you got to take that her as a symbol to be taken out is, I think, important. Like symbols do count.
Not only that, she represented the Alberta Health Services like fucking disgusting corruption, dude. And an attempt to manipulate the like populace by saying, oh, we're full. We're full. And you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And there was that stupid lawsuit about like, oh, well, it's illegal for the cabinet to make these decisions when the public health officer should have been doing it. And it's like, and the outcome that a lot of these virus fanatics had coming out of that was like, oh, Hinshaw wasn't responsible at all. Like she should be off the hook. It was all like no, Kenny and his cabinet.
Yeah, it's illegal for her to not be responsible. That's what that ruling said. Like, not illegal, but you know what I mean. Like
basically, like they said, like these public health orders were illegal because it
was influenced by cabinet.
Because the cabinet was like making the ultimate decision. But regardless, you think Hinshaw had nothing to do with any of that? Basically, she would come up with her schemes.
Yeah.
Probably. And then there was a political like process where it would kind of settle out.
Yeah.
But it's not like she wasn't part of this.
Yeah, no. So she basically presented them with plans. They're like, we're going to shut down all the gyms. They're like, but don't people need to
work? You have to stop serving alcohol at 11 o'clock now instead of midnight.
Yeah, that's her idea. Not JC Kenney's not sitting around like, what's an appropriate time to stop serving liquor?
This seems like a reasonable approach.
Yeah, reasonable. And it's just
so like, yeah, she's an accomplice to the system. And so, but firing people, watching the left have a meltdown over it, that should be happening at least once a month, like a big scalp.
Yeah, dude, cut out anybody who's like kind of who undermined Smith before the election. So everybody at AHS that has like any kind of appointment, all top brass, gone, cut, replaced, fresh, new, with doctors, not management. Fucking doctors. Anyone was like, oh, dude, this is too hard. And we're like, you know what, dude? Come on. Get in. You're in charge. Let's see what you got. And academia. Fucking anybody who touches education, cut, gone, start over. Climb this bitch inside and out. Cut and like
everyone. You can like the way you got to kind of take some of the left's tactics like oh yeah, you'll get the money, but you have to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, do that at the university level. Like your administrators have to do this, this, and this, and then you'll get the budget increase, or you won't get the budget decrease that we're proposing. But I mean, they can honestly pretty much do whatever they want, and they just never do it. It's like that, you got to be bold. Don't apologize. Just use the power you've been given. Don't be scared. And it's like the anchoring thing, right?
Yeah.
The left always puts its goal way out there, like super extreme.
2 generations away, yeah.
Or it's like we'll have a UBI, $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's pretty extreme. And then you settle on some like we'll have just a new welfare program, or we'll have some new committees to study poverty or something.
Yeah.
And the right is always like trying to put the reasonable answer out there. Put something totally crazy out there.
Yeah.
And watch it settle somewhere somewhat closer to your goal.
What's the craziest idea that you would reasonably recommend a member of legislation to propose? Like the thing that I just said, which was basically like piss test everyone you arrest if they have drugs in them, mandatory fucking detox.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
I mean,
Boom.
that's pretty hardcore. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but I think
They would just say, oh, it adds an extra charge. It's considered aggravated or under the influence. It just adds a extra 3 weeks to your sentence. Like, no. It's like, no, incarcerate them. Boom. 2 weeks. I don't care what you did. You're walking away. But right now, like, you got to detox and we'll let you go.
I don't know. I'd like to see like city council be punished.
Yeah. What do you
Like
think about
Calgary City Council?
like Polyev is saying, like, if you get in the way of housing, no more federal money. Fuck you.
Yeah, and so provincially, I'd have to think about what you would do to like target the city, but I'm pretty appalled by like the total scumbags in our, and I don't expect anything really different, but I think like it's just kind of remarkable how, like really how dumb these big Canadian cities, municipal governments are.
Yeah,
or I shouldn't say dumb, they're just like really awful ideologues who are basically insane. Leftoids.
I would ban party membership. Or basically disqualify anyone who has contributed to a party within the past 5 years.
What? Yeah, I
Any
don't know.
party.
Like I think you gotta threaten money from them somehow, like to get what you want.
This
Be like,
is-
oh yeah,
this
you'll
is
get
worse.
this infrastructure money, but you have to like.
This is worse. Like, you can't even run. You can't even get your lackeys in charge. They have to have had their nose clean for 5 years. Not a dime goes to fucking... You can't show up to meetings. You can't participate in party politics and also be a member of city council. Because the idea of political parties within municipal affairs is like...
I think it
not
would be
done.
a lot more honest if you had like political parties at the city level because
Yeah,
they're
it'd be
all
more honest. Yeah.
They're all NDP basically.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be nice to have that label on them.
Yeah.
I think that would hurt them in Calgary in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It would help them in some senses, but I think everyone basically gets what they are.
That would be kind of gross. But so, like, if you belong to a party or have donated money to a political party, even in excess of funds that you've donated to others, you must declare yourself as a candidate for a particular party if you want to run for alderman.
I don't know, something like that. But anyway,
Dude,
I
you
guess
know
we're
the-
getting into kind of lame
Yeah.
wonk stuff. But the real point is,
Do you know what this-
Danielle Smith has like more power than she ever thought she would have.
Yeah.
She's not exactly one of us per se,
But does she have the
but
courage?
she doesn't want to like lose.
Yeah.
So, and I'd much rather have the scumbags in the UCP in government than the scumbags in the NDP in government, especially because there's such a big rural component.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I've got 1 foot in the city, 1 foot in the rural community. Like it matters. Like that influence is a lot healthier, I would say, than the city influence. And basically the fact that the NDP has no like
Zero.
hold
Yeah.
in that at all, I think that's good. And, you know, like think of how many NDP support or NDP MLAs like had sympathy for Coots.
Yeah.
None. Think of how many rural MLAs had sympathy for Coots, like multiple.
Yeah.
And I think that does actually matter, even though these are mostly scumbags and stuff,
Yeah.
just because by default politicians are scumbags. Now, yeah, from a purely political power maintaining and expanding to, again, hurt your bad guys. Like...
dungeon.
What else can they? What else could they do to like crush the leftist mob?
Oh, you just yeah. Help any unionized.
Like we should be getting some rewards, like the friends. Where's our rewards to shore up support? Like, where's that patronage system?
I don't need your support. You fucking kidding me?
No, but you want like
I need your enemies. Like here's the. I guess the counter side to this is, it's very expensive to reward my friends. And it's expensive to punish my enemies. But the people that are in the middle, that are sort of my friends, I don't have to bother currying favor for because they're too afraid of my enemies. So the part where you go like, oh, I don't mind UCP cronies right now because as long as it's not NDP cronies, like, boom, I don't have to give you shit, dude. Why the fuck would I waste any time or money trying to get your vote when I know what you're afraid of? I just have to tell you that I'm going to punish your enemies, and that's it. And I've got your vote.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. Like, that'll do. Just punish my enemies.
So, I don't know what you would specifically do, but who's the biggest like supporting units of your enemies? It's
unions.
Unions. So you'd have to hurt the union somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would do that exactly, but there's got to be some options.
Oh, I would remove the requirement for unionization in order to hold a government position.
Oh yeah, that'd be hardcore.
Open it up to the free market, buddy. I'm sure there's some professors that would love to teach without being required to be part of a union. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
It seems like
you'd want to hurt the university system. You'd want to hurt the teachers unions.
You'd
want to hurt the nurses union.
I don't even have to bother going after them right now.
But it's the nurses union actually, from as far as I can tell, has a lot of conservative wives in it.
Yeah.
And
I would take anyone that was let go from their job. I would do like the state court in New York required the state to do, which was to rehire the people and give them back pay.
Yeah, that would make the leftists seethe.
Wouldn't that fucking... You'd be like, look, she already apologized, which is more than any other Canadian person in power has ever done.
More than most of the planet.
Yeah. Dude, at least an apology. And they're like, oh, that's so bad. Like, she took flack.
I liked when she said it was the most discriminated group in like human history.
Dude, it got
or whatever she said.
That was like catnip to those fucking people, dude. They couldn't wait to get on Twitter and be upset.
And you know what? I think it's like she should probably stop apologizing all the time, but in a sense it's kind of like Trump. Like, she creates so many outrages like week to week. I think she should keep it going.
It's called the pace, buddy.
Yeah,
I noticed that about Trump, like the pace. You can't
like give them something new every 3 days to seethe about.
Yeah.
And then eventually people will become numb to it, and then you're off to the races.
I don't know. I think eventually they're gonna have like the media apparatus is so aligned against them that at some point you're gonna say something that sounds like enough for even people like you and I to just go like, you gotta go. When you gaze into the abyss, buddy, like you can't.
What could you do to the media to make them like to punish them?
Oh, I would institute an independent committee to oversee them, to operate within the jurisdictional bounds of Alberta. Be like, we're tired of fake news. Like, accreditations from a journalistic like board is not enough anymore. I'd have an information czar. I'd have my own.
Yeah, the media is the worst. Like, the journalists are the worst. They're basically like political activists pretending to be like reporters. I'll give Pierre a little bit of credit, even though
Dude,
I don't.
He smokes them, dude.
It's quite funny sometimes, like the way he talks trash them, like
to their face, dude.
Like,
it's so good. That's what people want, man. They want wins. They want blood.
And the people on, like, in our side, like,
Yeah.
they all hate the journalists.
Yeah.
So you're not losing anything by being, like, mean to them.
Dude, he's not even mean.
No, it's not mean, but
It's embarrassing for them because they're like, their prestige is questioned. Like, that sounds like a real CBC smear job. You just fucking pulled
like
there.
you can't respect them. You can't
Yeah.
treat them like they deserve respect. Every question they ask should be a moment that you embarrass them on TV or on the radio or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that would be a huge that would be worth something to me.
I think we're asking too much of our political leaders to be able to do that. But when one comes along, dude, it's great. I love people getting dunked on.
Yeah, the media and the journalists, the journalists and like the university professors and the bureaucrats, these are like the trifecta of evil.
Yeah.
And they must be crushed.
Like, mercilessly.
And like, what do you really lose if you cut their budgets? I mean, cut the budget of bureaucrats. Like, they're going to be angry. Who cares? They don't support you.
Well, if Hinshaw has...
Fire them. Turn everyone into Hinshaw.
If Hinshaw has illustrated anything, like, there's, again, a little Yarvin... I think a masterpiece. He just called it, it was called Management by Rotary, where he basically outlined like the managerial class and like how it worked as like a modest proposal equivalent. It was like an ironic analysis of the fact that we have elected officials, but they don't actually have any power. It's all these ministers and heads of departments. They're the machinery that doesn't change, right? Like, Fauci's been in power in the United States for 40 fucking years, dude. Like, and he was making calls. Like, no one elected that guy.
No, he's got to go.
Same thing here. No one elected Dina Hinshaw, but she had the power. And in fact, her only mistake was allowing elected officials to influence the exercise of that power. So we've we have outsourced our judiciary. Like, we don't vote on judges. They're all liberals. They're all liberal like candidates. They're all liberal donators. We've outsourced that and trusted the Law Society to do its job. The same Law Society that like is now having to do diversity training required in order to practice law. Okay, like, it's happening. In like what they did to teachers, they're going to do to lawyers. So we've given these people these powers, not actively. We've done it tacitly. Like, we've submitted and said, it's okay. I trust Dina Hinshaw, who was appointed by who fucking knows, who has questionable fucking morals, questionable fucking expertise. We've entrusted her to decide whether we're not allowed to drink after 10 o'clock at night. You know how fucking insane that sounds? And the fact that we go like, oh, I don't think that's very good. Perhaps someone who I actually agreed to represent me and, advocate on my behalf or make decisions that I would assume I agree with, maybe they should have a say. And they go, no, that's fucking crazy. That's where we're at. I say, open up if you want democracy, fucking go hard. Let's vote for judges. Let's vote for fucking heads of departments. Let's, no more appointment of ministers.
You vote for judges in the U.S.
Yeah, dude, it's badass. You vote for sheriffs and you vote for judges.
I think the pool isn't very good.
No.
Like, you've got...
but what
you've got to go through the credentialing system, and I think it filters out, like, anyone good.
But look at the DAs. in America. That was the big Soros plan. Remember? Like everybody was like, "Oh, this guy's a Soros DA."
Yeah.
Like that's a brand.
Yeah, because you get to vote for them.
Yeah. Like this guy's gonna be tough on crime. Like Kamala Harris is my DA. She's gonna fucking go punish these fucking marijuana smokers. Like fuck yeah. No,
Yeah, it's. I think there's something to be said for the spoilage system, or the we evolved to the civil service,
yeah. Like this idea of
but I think like putting your crony pal in charge.
well, that's the thing. If people want to hold on to this farce that is democracy, at least have it reinforce the idea of consent. Like the part where it was like, well, most of us voted for this. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you can vote for members of, like, it's always on the ballot, the members of the, like, school board trustees. You vote for school board trustees? You fucking crazy? But we don't, like, that's crazy. But then we also don't vote for our judges? We don't vote for who sets laws or upholds laws or makes legal precedent? Dude, there's never been, I don't think there's been a law brought within the House to be like, yeah, this legal precedent is fucking full of shit. Do you know what I mean? They don't get struck down by the political process. So like, we don't vote for who's in charge of education. We don't vote for like just a trustee. We vote. It's gross. Canadians need to be ruled. So maybe things are defined the way they are. Oh, the other thing that I would do is basically make it illegal for the feds to voluntel rural communities how many immigrants they have to take.
Yeah,
and I would only put them in like NDP ridings. Be like, you're allowed to move here, and that's it.
Yeah, let them have it.
There you go.
There's not a lot of NDP ridings out in rural. Yeah, like I'm at the
I don't know. Am I crazy? Maybe that's disgusting, but I'm just saying if you're gonna go down this path, maybe perhaps this whole like hiding behind, oh, you chose this. At least let them choose. Like, don't gaslight them into fucking thinking, you know?
Yeah, I think there's some interesting thoughts in all that, and I think about Mencken. Democracy is the theory that people know what they want and they deserve to get it good and hard. Like, yeah, let them make their choice. But on the other hand, we've seen the kind of choices people in Canada like to make. And
would you have voted for Hinshaw if she was on a ballot?
Well, the thing is, like, imagine the public health director position comes up for election and it's like a school board trustee. It's going to be like 500 votes of crazy people who paid attention and like her friends voted for her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Some famous
I think
person's
the school board
wife.
trustee thing's kind of interesting because people are now like have it on their radar in a way that it wasn't paid attention before.
Yeah.
And because some of these schools have crossed a few lines that have upset a few people.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, how does this happen? Like, and I mean, the school board doesn't really, I think, have much to say about, you know, curriculum and things like that. Like, they're not going to really, you can reform your school board, but like, where do these teachers come from? Well, they come from university masters of education programs. Like, well, what's that?
Yeah.
That's like a leftist program.
Yeah.
Your credentialing process is a leftist program. Just being in university in that kind of program at all is a leftist self-selection kind of process. Like
I didn't see a single dude's name on there as well.
On what?
The school board trustee list.
Well, no. But I mean, it runs so deep, and it's the system itself is so infested with the bad guys
Yeah.
that you like can't hit it at any one point
Yeah.
to correct something. Like that's why you got to kind of wait for I guess that's the idea of rising from the ashes, because you can't fix the system. It's like too infested. You got to like burn down the house and rebuild it rather than like try and take all the termites out.
And now we're back to we only need young candidates.
I don't know.
I only vote for school board trustees if they're wearing a hijab.
What do you think? What do you think of? Because what do you think of the Muslim protesters saying "Leave our kids alone"?
Based. Do you know what do you think about the Trudeau's statement that they don't actually think that they've
been brainwashed by
co-opted.
like American right wing politics?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty condescending.
Dude,
like you're too dumb to come to this conclusion by yourself.
You know better than this, Muslim community. Dude, he doesn't.
The reaction to that was pretty funny because you saw like the leftist media like
dissonance.
really upset about it. And like, hey, you're supposed to be on our side.
Did you hear that?
You're oppressed just like the LGBT.
Did you hear there was two like Muslim students who like recorded their teacher yelling at them about this?
Oh yeah, that was great.
And he's like, well, if you
don't like it, get out.
Your religion's like this, so why don't you respect our customs?
Yeah, and that's funny because the right people on the right or the conservatives were like, you Muslims better respect our society or you can get out.
No Sharia.
And now the
here.
leftoids
are
like, you need to respect our society or get out.
And all the right wingers are like, heckin' based.
Yeah. But that's kind of what you need. Many years ago, there was that protest at the it was a UK school where there was some LGBT thing. You probably remember what I'm talking about. But it was a lot of Muslim kids in the school, and the parents were just like, no.
Yeah.
And they just took their kids out. And within a few days, like, things were changed. Now,
Canadians, they're not Muslim enough to not be Canadians at the same time. Canadians don't do that kind of stuff.
But it's interesting that
there's
any backbone whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like downtown here in Calgary, we had protests down at City Hall like every weekend for a little while during Pride Month.
Yeah.
And it was like Muslim protests.
Yeah.
And I thought that was rather charming.
Yeah.
Oh, I liked it. Leave our kids alone.
Yeah, you need clever chants to draw the ear. Oh, that's a catchy ditty. You're screaming over there. What's this about?
Well, and you had like the Buffalo plaid truck guys driving by honking in support.
Yeah,
and the media would say, they're being co-opted by.
They don't really think this.
Yeah, they didn't know how to deal with it. Like that's not the way it's supposed to go in the leftoid's mind.
It's another one of those like dissonant scenarios that they wouldn't really consider. It's sort of like the remember I sent you that big long list of like dissonant questions? My favorite one is, if trans women are women, right? So like you have to accept that. So that's a one on our presupposition list here, right? And they go, okay, well, imagine the Canadian Parliament is full of 50% biological men and 50% trans women. would you, as a biological woman, feel as though your interests were adequately represented in this scenario? And for somebody to go yes, like they'd have to like be absolutely lying. No one in the House of Commons has ever menstruated. And you think that your interests are being taken into consideration? No one in there has a uterus. No one in there has given birth. Almost everybody in the House of Commons can bench like 120 at least. And you think that they have your interests in mind or can relate to your circumstances? Like, no. I feel that's hard to get around that. I don't know how you square that circle, dude. Like give me like your best attempt to say I would feel that they represented my interests as a woman if that were the case. Be like, well, half of them are women. Done.
Pretty much, but that's the like those are the knots you inevitably have to like twist yourself into with some of these progressive positions that like they create for themselves, because they're basically the whole purpose is to get like power. So it's not like coherence isn't necessarily the goal. Like we tend to hold consistency as important. Like you should be consistent in your principles, but when your only goal is power, like consistency isn't important. You can hold contradictory opinions as much as necessary. And some people will just try to make it work, and to the extent that they can't really put the two compatibility things, they'll just accept the dissonance.
Yeah, it's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy.
Yeah. Anyway, I looked up this Toronto Star article about the Muslim protests, and the article was why it's heartbreaking to see Muslim groups join pushback against LGBTQ2 plus.
2IA plus?
No, that's not included.
It's gone now?
It's not in that one.
Huh.
This one ends at 2 plus.
Huh. Intersex, erased.
Anyway, it's a long
Asexuals, erased.
rambling column.
Of course, dude.
And
does it make the Anglican case for pedophilia?
But it's about like the recording, right?
Yeah.
Like the students like, well, this is how we do it in Canada, and like if you don't like it, you can get out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what we were talking about. They're trying to square the circle here.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty tortured attempt at like the contradictions that emerge in tolerance, because I mean it was funny early on when the right was, remember when the Muslim thing was like a really big issue for a while?
It was on 24. Big deal.
Yeah, no, I mean like kind of later than that, like with a lot of the like Syrian refugees and stuff, and like you can't have these Muslims can't come live in our society because they're like incompatible. They don't
like
believe in women's rights.
They love Sharia law.
They love Sharia law.
Yeah.
And the progressive, you'd be like, well,
it's completely compatible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now like it's one of their coalitions that doesn't seem to really have much reality to it.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, like most Muslims aren't into the whole LGBT thing.
No.
That's just how I see it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but
I don't think
that
you
seems
are.
to be the easy observation to make.
I'm going based on the ones I know. Now, granted, I do have a selection bias in the fact that they're successful people in Calgary, which takes a certain type of Muslim to begin with. However, they all seem to share the same apprehension. But they're, unfortunately, like, there's no Canadian identity for them to, like, compare it to. So they just go like, well, I'm basically like a foreigner here. You guys don't have Sharia law, so I guess it doesn't matter. But most of them are just like, stay the fuck away from my kids, man. I want grandkids. Don't fuck with my kids.
So in this Toronto Star rant,
No, correction. Screed.
In this Toronto Star screed, they're like, we can't beat homophobia with Islamophobia. And it talks about how like right wingers seized upon this as like progressive hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're so tolerant until like two of your special groups like come in conflict with each other.
Choose.
And this writer doesn't know how to deal with this. It like this article goes on and on, or it's a screed. It's like a column.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on. Like, well, we need to fight homophobia, but we need to fight Islamophobia, and everyone needs to like tolerate. But there's some things that just are inherently incompatible.
Yeah.
And
this is what I was saying about the Christianity, the tolerant Christian.
yeah, I think the tolerant Christian is a mistake. Like that doesn't mean be mean to people or persecute people necessarily, but it's different from tolerating things.
Okay.
Like tolerance isn't.
When was the last time a Christian threw someone off a roof?
I don't know, like 500 years ago.
At least, dude. Okay, I've seen high def cell phone footage. Okay? Like, it's tolerant.
So like a lot of people take Christianity to be about being nice, I think. Like you've got to be nice to everyone and you can't judge anyone, which is totally like not correct.
Yeah.
But I mean it's really about recognition of your own failings, but at which kind of opens the door to kind of see what's good and bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the ability to judge in the right framework comes from.
Okay.
But it's not about like not judging at all. And
no, it's a passive judgment.
But most people are too afraid to judge. Like the Muslims don't fear being called bigots the way like a white Christian does.
Yeah. Nothing
is scarier to a whitey than being called like
racist
a bigot or
racist
or whatever. I just think that, what am I trying to say? The Muslim is intolerant the way more people should be intolerant. And again, I don't mean like persecuting people or going up and stabbing them or whatever.
This is not a call to violence.
Standards, like, there's lines that you shouldn't cross.
Yeah.
Where is the white Christian line?
Oh,
it's
dude,
very
fucking
dissolved.
Miles away, dude.
And I think a lot of them don't even think they should have a line whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like say you had a church, you want to be welcoming to people, you want like people to come to God, come to Jesus.
Radical acceptance.
You say some parent shows up with like their little boy in a dress.
Yeah.
I don't think you should tolerate that.
Yeah.
Like you can't endorse that, but not just endorse, like you can't tolerate certain things. Like they have to be repudiated. And Christianity's like religions by kind of their nature should be about repudiating bad things.
What's the the Christians need a nice quick version of the word haram. Like they need one. Like somebody goes like, well, why can't I dress my child?
The Old Testament gives us karam,
which
is like set aside for destruction. It's like
No, they're
It's the opposite of holiness.
yeah, just no one takes the word against God from a Christian perspective. Like they just say, oh, it's sinful or it's whatever. Like it doesn't say specifically this is an affront. Maybe it's an affront. It's blasphemous. Like Christians need to use the word blasphemy more often.
Well,
they're pussies is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they're not like putting on the armor.
Yeah,
the Crusader armor.
Because it makes me think that they don't actually believe this shit.
I think a lot of people use it just like a self-help program.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe
they don't really see that souls are at stake here.
I'm critical only because I expect more. And if I had no expectations of them, I would be like, whatever, they're pussies. Like, I don't expect the Buddhists to save me.
Well, they've seen
Western
so
culture.
much territory already.
Yeah, I don't expect the Buddhists to save me.
How do they
people.
reclaim it? Yeah, exactly. Well, the Buddhist isn't really.
They'll save me from the Muslims.
Unless you're in Sri Lanka,
yeah.
They're not really imposing a lot of standards. Like we don't think of like them as giving other people a hard time.
Not the Western ones, that's for sure. Yeah, like even the Chinese ones are pretty chill. You know. So yeah, as a disclaimer, I would not be this critical of them if I didn't have such hopes and respect for them.
Well, so there's some gay dude or formerly gay dude or whatever you want to say. He had a conversation with some Christians at like a cafe.
Yeah,
because he saw them like having a little Bible study at the coffee shop or something. He's like,
so gay.
Oh, what? So what do you guys think of homosexuality?
Yeah,
and they're just like, it's a sin.
Yeah,
like no beating around the bush. And then they're like, you should come to our church service on Sunday.
Yeah,
and I would say that's
Base.
Not tolerant.
Yeah.
Because, again, people kind of need some standards. People hunger for some standards.
Yeah.
It's like the live and let live mentality, or
leave it to the Buddhists.
It's, it has its place. But when it comes to like a moral question or like a spiritual question,
yeah,
you can't just have a no standard thing. I mean, it's just going back to the previous conversation. Like,
where's your line?
Where's the line, but like a lot of people use the whole Christianity thing as a rationalization to not hold anyone accountable or not have any standards for people, or basically rationalize like their wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Because, well, God loves me anyway, so it doesn't matter what I do. And it's like I said, it's pretty much the opposite. It does matter what you do because God loves you.
I guess, I mean, the idea of redemption and absolution are too core to, like, if you eliminate the idea of absolution and redemption, it's over. Man cannot strive.
That's true.
So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I am a bit too hard on them.
But most of them don't have, like, they're too afraid to uphold their own standards. Yeah. I think in a way it's because they don't want to be upheld to it either.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to be good.
Yeah, it is hard to be good, which is why
I don't pretend.
Well,
otherwise.
The Christian answer would be like, yeah, it's so hard to be good, you can't do it. Like, you literally can't. That's why you need help, basically.
Yeah.
You need God's help to do it. Otherwise, you're hopeless.
You're fucked.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of weird to think about because you got to have some real. You got to believe you're right.
Yeah.
And
you have to know, dude.
Yeah, you have to know you're right. And you have to know that, like, you can't be wishy-washy about it. You got to really be dedicated. And the Muslim is more likely, I think, to take his own religion very seriously.
Yeah.
At least in the modern world. Of course, there's all kinds of contrary examples. We've got a lot of very serious Christians. We've got a lot of unserious Muslims, phonies, and hardcore people.
When it comes to, I don't know. I think we're in agreement here. But yeah, it is funny that the poor Islamist had to be besmirched and beguiled by the American right wing.
But here's a question.
Poor guys.
So you saw that clip of Trudeau, like what we were talking about, where he's talking to the couple Muslim dudes who had some concerns.
I don't know which one that one was.
Well, he's like, this is just people being duped by like right wing politics in the U.S. and it's like it's confusing people.
The source of all hate.
But think about how delicately he had to handle that versus if it was just some quote unquote right wing Christian bigots complaining about LGBT rights in school.
Yeah.
They'd be like condemned as the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
Look at how he has to dance around the issue as delicately as possible.
He's so good, man. Fuck. How do we ever beat him, dude? He's so good. It's not your fault. You're a victim still.
I like how he said somebody was like, "Hey, you're." This is what he said. He's like, what do you say about all like the outrage against your government? He's like, well, the pandemic has increased mental illness among the society.
That's hilarious. It's better
paraphrase.
Yeah, remember.
But basically, if you're angry at me, it's because you're mentally ill.
Yeah, you're sick.
You're a sick person if you don't like me and my government.
I think it's better than like Kenny.
He did it with his compassionate, soft-spoken
voice.
His
actor voice. I like his rabble-rouse voice when he pulls out that fucking Letterman jacket and like, his varsity jacket with the big L on the front. I'm surprised he didn't put a C on his shoulder too. I like that voice. He's like, we're not gonna let these people.
Okay, I wanted to get it exactly. During a press conference in PEI today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked about fuck Trudeau merchandise and whether he has become a political liability.
Yeah.
Trudeau responded, there has been an increase in, quote, frustration, unquote, and, quote, mental health pressures, unquote, across the country.
Mental health pressures?
Then he said, so you're mentally ill, but we don't want to write off Canadians just because they choose to wave a nasty flag. Don't write off a neighbor who chooses to put a bumper sticker that, unfortunately, you have to explain to your kids. People are hurting out there. And what we've seen every single time there's been an emergency or challenge this summer is neighbors stepping up to help each other. So look how he packages this like subtle dig.
Dude, what a genius, dude.
But look, so basically hidden in there is these people are mentally ill.
Yeah.
But it's packaged up in this like, be compassionate.
Yeah.
They're sick.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault. The pandemic made them crazy. Mostly because of me.
Yeah. Dude. Well, no, it's got nothing. No, the world. It happened to the world.
He's like the Canadian left-wing Trump. I honestly think that's like a good analysis. And I think somebody probably said it before I did, but I think I give myself some credit for describing him in this way because he is like, he speaks to his team's frustrations and like their beliefs very effectively.
Yeah.
their desire to be like compassionate, like we're so compassionate,
Oh,
like
I'm
we
so
care
good.
about people
Oh, I'm
so
so-
much. Like, yeah, these people are sick. I should like.
Oh, I'm so full of compassion right now, dude.
While some Canadians are lashing out, my government will continue to reassure them that their kids and their communities are going to be able to succeed, even though the world is changing in scary ways.
Yeah, be afraid. But dude, do you notice in all his packaging, all his wording, he's like, we were there for Canadians. Like gas.
And we will continue to be there
get-
for Canadians. We
Yeah.
will continue. We will continue.
Yeah, we will be there for Canadians. We supported and helped.
My role as Prime Minister is to keep Canadians safe.
Yeah. Last night, as I was bringing in $7,000 worth of groceries for this month, I caught my wife sleeping with the bull that we agreed should be fired.
I like how she is still going on holidays with them. Like, isn't that kind of weird?
It's super weird, dude. Like, what's going on, dude? What do you?
Loves the lifestyle.
What's going on?
I don't know.
Do you notice it was weird that we were?
Because word in Ottawa is that they've been like practically separated for like over 2 years.
Yeah. Strangely, after she caught COVID.
And I'm gonna bring this up again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this up.
Oh.
I knew the relationship was over
Yeah.
based on that clip that has been scrubbed from the internet.
Yeah, the Gomeshi clip, dude. It's gone.
From that French
that was
Canadian
years and
radio
years ago.
It's from 2014,
Yeah. No, it was earlier than that. He was
2012 or 2014. Like,
Yeah. Dude, you sent me the date, the time, and the episode
I know I
number.
researched it
We
exactly.
couldn't find it. Nowhere on the internet is the video like findable anymore.
I don't know. I wrote it down somewhere, but basically, you can't find this. It was on YouTube. It used to be easy to find because I'd look it up periodically and have a good chuckle at it. But this is the clip for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about. This is Gomeshi, Justin, and Sophie on some cheesy like public access or CBC
TVA.
Radio Canada or whatever it's called in France. Or I'm an idiot. Quebec. And so Gomeshi, we all know him. He likes to punch women in the face as a fetish or something. And him and Justin are flirting like crazy. It's very cringy to watch.
Pretty gross, dude.
And then Sophie's kind of being left out.
Yeah.
And she's like kind of looking over at them. And then she's like, why don't you kiss him or something to that effect? And then he looks at her like, how, like,
Bitch.
like kind of trying to keep the showbiz on TV smile.
Yeah.
But like you can see the venom in his face.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember what happens after that. I think it's like, oh, cut the commercial or
No, they kissed.
no, not Gomeshi and Justin.
Oh.
You didn't remember that, right?
No, I thought
There's no Justin and Gomeshi kissing.
I thought there was.
They wanted to.
No,
That's
I thought
why
he kissed
Sophie
him.
made her comment.
Oh. Oh, maybe.
Because it was like a very weird, awkward, like dudes don't talk like that to each other. The
Yeah.
way they were, their body language, it was just very weird, and it was obvious it was
Flirtatious?
a relationship destined for failure.
Yeah.
And I think they've been married or whatever for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now,
Once you
unfortunately, people won't dig. We need like a National Enquirer kind of Canadian version thing to dig
need-
into it more. But I bet you there's a lot there.
we're autistic, but not that autistic, dude.
We need. I love gossipy dirt on politicians.
Yeah, it's nice.
I think it's funny
Yeah.
because I think these are the lowest people of the low, and I think it's always good to illustrate that with like what their lives are really like.
Yeah.
Especially someone as degenerate as Trudeau.
Dude, like the
And you know what?
booze bills.
So some people say like, "Hey, Trudeau's gay" or like whatever. And I don't. I think it's more complicated than that. I think he's so weird and awkward and like sexually dysfunctional that he doesn't know how to like relate to people in a normal like romantic kind of way.
Yeah.
Like he groped the reporter
Dude, that weird hug he gave Jolie or whatever the fuck her name, like that gal he appointed, and like
Yeah,
he's just like,
there's just something very weird about him that I think on a personal level we don't really get to see, and we don't know what the full story is, but it's
gross.
It's not like asexual, and it's not like a predator, but there's some.
No, he's a predator, dude.
There's just something, but I think he's a predator in a different kind of way. Not like Kent Hare in the elevator.
You look yummy.
Yummy.
Gross, dude.
Especially when you're at like hip level because you're sitting in
right near the groin. You can feel his hot. You can feel his hot breath.
He drools.
You feel his hot breath on your upper
He's
thigh.
got like the glistening shine in the corners of his mouth.
Bueno.
So yeah, there's something definitely weird about Trudeau that I don't think we get a good glimpse at, that we'll never probably truly understand.
Yeah.
But I'm going by my intuition,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm a good sense of who's a creep.
Yeah.
And he's a special kind of creep. Like you said, the word predator might be applicable, but it's a somewhat different kind of predator.
I think these guys get off on putting people in, sort of like Biden. They put people in positions in public. Like somebody put that Spanish coach and Trudeau like side by side, and they're like, "Oh my God, look at the way he's groping these females." And I'm like, "This is an appointed minister," and like Trudeau's like literally like pressing his dick against her fucking belly. You know, like it's gross.
What a pervert.
Yeah.
I assume all politicians are like perverts until proven otherwise.
You know,
I think if you could get a glimpse of like their internet searches or their hard drives, I think
it's all just photos of themselves, dude.
It's like the classic kind of stereotype about like the Republican like senator who's got like gay pornos on his computer or something. Or the leftist who's like into kids and stuff. Like there's just kind of these images, and I think the stereotypes don't come from nowhere.
Yeah. Those define.
I just think it's so interesting how like degenerate these people are.
You know, I can see how you would think that, but COVID's been hard on everybody. It's been a mental health strain on people who don't like Trudeau to have to live under his rule for an absolute kind and benevolent rule over these past long years as he guided you through COVID and was there for you during lockdowns. So I have compassion for you.
Do you think there's another shoe waiting to drop in the Sophie Justin saga?
No, I think it'll be like...
think there's like an affair that we're about to find out about?
No. Well, like we all know. We all know how she got COVID. Like we all know.
I don't know. I think that's just like
Do you think it's going to turn into Harper's wife kind of rumor tier?
No.
No?
I think it would be more interesting. The Harper's wife thing is kind of weird but boring at the same time.
It's pretty mundane.
Because they never really made themselves out to be something. Like it was always sort of like
they're not posing in yeah.
There's not like the same image issue.
Yeah.
So
they weren't trying to be treated as royalty the way they seem to pose themselves as, like the tabloidy like taking photos together at events. Like, check out Trudeau and Sophie on their New England getaway. You know, like you paid you paid someone to fucking take photos of you, and you pretend like you don't notice it. There, check out Trudeau on the beach.
Yeah, the Canadian media won't look into it because we don't have like a trashy, gossipy like reporter team, like National Enquirer style.
Yeah.
But there's something out there.
Beaverton.
There's something out there that is we deserve to know.
Yeah.
Because I like funny politician gossip.
Something's up.
And it also illustrates the degeneracy of these democratic, moral, and intellectual superiors of ours.
What would be the perfect like Tetris piece to drop for you to like it comes to light and there's it like
Justin and Gomeshi would be too perfect. But I think the simple answer is him and some like the Jolie or whatever, like
Or
some
the babysitter or the nanny or the au pair.
yeah, just something kind of conventional in a sense. And
You know what would be the perfect one for me? Freeland.
that would be so funny.
Oh, dude, she bikes everywhere. She's got that dump on her, buddy.
Gross.
Dude, I bet she could squat.
That is
him.
one of the grossest things I've ever heard. She is gross.
Made her deputy for a reason, buddy.